Welcome to the 12 Days of Edition Wars, a series in which we take a deep dive into the Dungeon Master's guides written for the previous editions of our favorite game. We aim to discuss what worked, what didn't work, what got pulled into future editions, and what got left by the side of the road. And on the 4th day of Edition Wars, my true love gave to me 4 giant white rocks flying across the sky at midnight. Oh, well, maybe that wouldn't be such a good thing. Anyway, what is this evening bringing for you, my co-host?
Well, this evening, so we're starting in on Chapter 7 in the 2nd edition DMG, which is Magic, and it is very Ars Magica up in this piece, and so you know I'm all about it.
Yep, yeah. So, what do you have to say about it? It sucks? All right, okay, we're moving on.
Really? Come on now.
I knew you would agree.
Ooh.
No. So, what about it? What are we talking about here? What's your favorite part?
Well, so this opens with a lot of discussion of how you get your spells. I don't know why they're only talking about wizards. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why cleric spells aren't magic, but they're not. They're just not.
Well, we already know how they get their spells, so
sure. I mean, ish. Anyway,
I mean, I'm being facetious. I'm saying they definitely should be talking about divine magics as well, but
yeah,
it's kind of poo-pooed.
Well, have I talked before about wanting to run a campaign sometime where clerics have to do just as much legwork to get new spells as wizards do? So you go track down holy relics of your faith to like attune to them to get new spells. Not attune in the magic item sense, just
right.
You study it for a while and pray over it, and you get a new spell. Because that'd be so much fun. Anyway.
Yeah, it would. And I mean, look, when the ancients sacrificed to the gods, they didn't just slaughter a goat and burn it with no ceremony. I mean, it was all done up. You didn't just know how to do it. You had to be trained.
That's right.
So yeah, no, I agree. And as a person who loves playing divine casters, that is right up my alley, as you know, from our discussion about, the residuum and all that and how it would be different for divine magics and all that. So that's right up my alley. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of irks me that they don't talk about that.
Well, like pilgrimages would suddenly be built in, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like there's a shrine of, I don't know, there's a shrine in Compostela. You need to go to it. But Compostela? I'm in Scotland. I can't get a Compostela from here.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of different ways you can get your new spells. You choose, the GM chooses, you work together. I cannot believe how many paragraphs they spend on this.
Right.
Man. Right. But that's me coming from, at this point in most of my gaming career, having been spent on 3rd, 4th, and 5th editions, where the idea of you don't get to pick your starting spells is just, what? No.
Right. Well, remember, this
is your playstyle, my guy.
Yeah, but this is also coming from the, in 1st edition, it wasn't just that you didn't get to pick your spells. Sometimes you would find one and you would roll poorly and you would have no chance to learn it.
Yeah. Well,
right? So it's a very restrictive. So this is at least a little bit less restrictive.
Yeah. Well, and
it's at least entertaining, the idea, right?
And this also has the issue of like you could wind up with no starting attack spells. You could wind up with no spells of your specialty school.
Right.
Fun.
Yeah. Right. I'm just saying, right? Like that's why they spend so many paragraphs on it, because it's kind of new. I mean,
yeah.
Look, I'm not saying people didn't play 1st edition and just let their wizards pick spells, right? I'm not saying that.
But what I'm saying is, by letting people just have the fun they want to have, I promise.
Right, but buy the book, so.
But this is also where we see players gaining new spells immediately upon going up levels. First, whenever a character attains a new spell level, allow the player one new spell immediately. And like that, I believe that's a big change from 1st. I'm not looking at the book right now, but I'm pretty sure it's a change. And some kind of guarantee that you can use your highest level slot is a big deal. I'm never sure how I feel about this, because any number of guaranteed spells, especially if you're picking from the open list of whatever's allowed in the campaign, really, really erodes any need to go chase down new spells. But it's fine. It's fine. You don't have to roll to learn your new spell, level up, so that's fine. You can also copy from spell books, as God and Vance and everyone else intended. Then there's scroll research, which is very cool. You definitely might destroy your scroll and not get the spell. So fun. And it still takes a bunch of time and money. So it's super punitive, but I guess the payoff of all that punitive setup is, man, when it works, it feels great.
Right. Yeah.
Notably in Planescape Torment, which is one of the short list of second edition computer RPGs I've actually played to any great extent. They get rid of any chance of failure in picking up a new spell, because it's not the fun they want to have, frankly.
Right.
Then finally, there's Study with a Mentor. And I mean, having an ongoing apprenticeship relationship is great. I haven't actually played a game where the Wizard PC's previous master was important in the campaign in an ongoing way, and I should fix that. It's really cool, actually.
Yeah. It's tough though, because it's easy to accidentally make that person overshadow any of the things that the PC does.
I mean, maybe.
Or just become a generic kind of patron type person, type NPC, where, okay, I'm just giving you your next task. Like, there's a way to add it in very richly that could be awesome, but I think it's going to require a lot of effort.
So I agree that there are pitfalls. I guess I feel confident enough in my ability to avoid the pitfalls that it doesn't. I'm not too worried about it. I mean, in the same way that in D&D Brief, you have more senior priests of your cleric's god show up, and it's okay.
Sure.
Right?
Oh yeah.
They don't overrun the campaign. It's fine.
Right.
Anyway, the next section is entitled DM Control of Spell Acquisition, which, I mean, it says most of what you need to hear about how tight-fisted or not to be. Because the section is not just, hey, be tight-fisted. It's, think about what you want here.
Right. Yeah.
And by keeping the selection of spells limited, you automatically increase their importance and value to the wizards in your campaign. And it's interesting that plural phrasing, that sort of sidelong implication of more than one wizard in the party.
There's going to be more than exactly.
Which I mean, you mostly don't see. Certainly not in third or fourth or fifth, not at all. And I mean, it does happen in my game because there are so many characters,
right?
That like sometimes there will be 2 or 3 wizards in a single party roster, just sort of by chance. But mostly it doesn't happen because mostly everyone's playing a different class. And honestly, that was mostly true in second ed.
Sure,
but again,
other than sort of specific campaigns that were set up, to do things like Wizards of the Accordlands and stuff like that. But also in later editions where people have broader access to magic, for example, 5th edition, as you know, my D&D Brief game, like every single one of the players can cast.
Yep.
And cast well. I mean, they have lots of ability to use magic, even though they're not all wizards. In fact, none of them are wizards.
Right.
So that becomes a little that idea becomes a little more dilute later on. But certainly in first and second edition, you know, I don't remember ever running a game where I had more than one wizard.
Yeah, fair. I mean, things do get really interesting in a hurry if you have two characters of the same class and they need to differentiate themselves from each other, right? And there's sort of even more room for that to happen with wizards than with other classes because their spell choices represent such differentiation.
Right.
I mean, any spellcaster could, right? Certainly, in later editions, two sorcerers in 5th edition might have 0 things in common.
Sure.
Other than, the very few core sorcerer features. But like their subclasses are so different, their spell lists are so different, and so on.
Right.
But anyway, I do really like just what this represents here, in terms of differentiation, in terms of a goal, just that sort of got to catch them all impulse. That's all very, very fun to me. And then we get literally a full page on spellbooks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have stuff to say about spellbooks. All shapes and sizes. That's very, promising, I guess. And because it's the second edition DMG, we get the historical real world fantasy iteration on it.
Right.
With Egypt and ancient China and Babylon and medieval Europe, and that's still fascinating. That's where Zeb Cook was coming from as he thought about all this. But yeah, I mean, what it's really saying is you can deliver a lot of great characterization just by describing your spellbook. Go forth and prosper.
Right. Yeah, which I like, because I like the idea of, differentiating your character through the items that they have, right? Because in some cases, that is the best way to differentiate your character.
Yep.
Even two fighters can have, can look very different and use very different equipment, and therefore seem to have very different abilities. I mean, that's absolutely valid, and there's no reason why it wouldn't be valid between two wizards or two spellcasters.
And then there's a discussion of sort of your main grimoire at home and your traveling spellbook.
Right.
And it was sort of a moment of self-indulgent pride for me in in our Dust to Dust LARP that I ran with Rabbit and my friend Colin and Jeremiah and a bunch of other friends, right? I'm not going to list the entire staff here. Sorry, Dust to Dust staff, you deserve it, but I'm on a schedule. That the players in the campaign had both their emergency traveling spellbooks and their master spellbooks back at home. They wouldn't risk for anything. That sucker was under lock and key. Because if they lost the spell, sorry, bro, that's gone.
Yep.
You can research it again. Have fun with that. Maybe you can pay another cabal in the town to sell you another copy. That's gonna hurt. I don't know. That was we put a lot of energy into getting the experience for wizards in that game that I see in these pages. These imprinted on me enormously, and these even more than the first ed player's handbook in DMG represent to me a sort of sane game version, a playable game version of what Jack Vance is talking about in stories about Pendulum and Turgeon of Myr and so on, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, I said at the beginning of talking about this book in the previous episode that I wasn't going to be objective about it, and I'm not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just hint, not objective.
Yeah, it's funny because whereas this was very formative in your sort of ideals about magic use and whatnot, along with the literature that you read. But I mean, in terms of the game, for me, first edition was.
Yeah.
So for me, I sort of it's interesting. I have kind of a different relationship with this book because, and I don't mean that as a comparison, like the other one's better and this one's not as good or something like that, but just more in terms of, I read this and I'm like, yeah, these are the things we already had to sort of figure out and work through within our own group playing first edition.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So there was something of a, or somewhat of a, almost like a validation of, oh yeah, we've been doing it like this, but using first edition rules, but doing it like this as a house rule forever, or for, the last 5 campaigns or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there was a little bit of validation, but it didn't feel as formative, right?
Sure.
It just felt more validating of, oh yeah, so now not only are you saying that rules are a guideline and feel free to change things and make it work for your table, but you're actually showing that because this book is so different from the first edition DMG, right? I mean, just in tone and writing, in
for
what's in
sure.
it, everything, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, but it's still, because it matches somewhat the main trope ideas of what D&D is, obviously, because it's D&D, then it still has some one-to-one comparison ability. And it's like, oh yeah. But it just wasn't as formative for me. So it's interesting the different points of view that we come at this as. So,
I mean, while I was out partying, you studied the Blade, right? of first edition DMG,
mm-hmm.
and obviously for you, this was only going to be pruning your ideas at absolute most
Right.
of what all of this should be. Like,
True.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, as I have said so many times, I must have read this chapter 100 times, just sort of,
mm-hmm.
really just sort of feeling like the ideas, the images, and a very impressionistic sense of what it would mean at the table sort of flow through me as I read it. And a lot of it I've never quite hit the note exactly the way I'd want over the course of a whole campaign to give the players a sense of like how cool it could be, how much it can feel like accomplishment. And if anything, the problem is that there isn't comparable cool stuff for everybody.
Right.
There's cool stuff. Like your fighter gets a new weapon. It's great. He's happy for a week. Great. But I don't know. I'm just so attached to this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's understandable, right?
But then, like, it just keeps going with adding new spells. And I mean, I don't know if everyone who's ever played a wizard has immediately said to themselves, I'd like to research new spells. But I have certainly never encountered anyone who doesn't look at I can research new spells ? Exclamation point.
Mm-hmm.
And they're off to the races with
Right.
ideas for things they think would be cool.
I mean, yeah, and what's funny is I think in first and second edition and in basic D&D that happened a lot, but it feels like to me, although I didn't play as much third edition, but in fourth and fifth edition that doesn't happen.
Yeah, fair. I mean,
There's so many spells that are available, and there's so many ways to get products
Right.
that have new spells for classes in them
Right.
that,
I
you know
don't
what I
know.
mean?
Oh, I
Unless,
absolutely do. Like, I just uh, sort of internally default to, okay, when you're, well, that's exactly what I'm talking about though, with like learning new spells when you level up,
Mhm.
right? Um, like if you treat, I get 2 new spells when I level up as a shopping trip through all the rule books. Well, that's fun for a moment, but it's also kind of missing some sense of payoff to me.
maybe, but if you're in the middle of a campaign, you don't have 2 months to go off and have the wizard research new things. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay, so there's a whole separate conversation around like building in downtime in the campaign so that
Sure,
PCs can
absolutely.
pursue off-screen goals.
Sure, but let's look. I mean, but if you look at modern adventures, they don't often build that time in.
Yeah,
So
I know.
therefore, you get a default playstyle or a suggested playstyle that doesn't really address this particular issue. It just
No,
assumes
I
they're not
agree.
going to.
I don't have to be happy
So
about it, but I mean, you're
yeah,
right.
no, I mean, and I'm not advocating for it. What I'm saying is, it's almost like first and second edition are kind of the last time that we really see it advocated for.
Yeah. Well, it's the last time that getting a castle is an assumed part of play for the
That's
fighter.
true. That's
So,
true. Mhm.
like, while the wizard is gathering up all these spells, the fighter is gathering
Mhm.
up provinces.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. I know. You're right. It is very, it's very different. Anyway, so we're gonna go off on way too many tangents if we keep
weird.
that line of discussion
Um,
up.
but yeah, like there are guidelines for building new spells. They're kind of what you think they are. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, this sets minimum research time for new spells at 2 weeks. Um, you all recall, beloved listeners, from this time last year when we were covering spells and magic. Okay, it was a couple of days later in the 12 days, but work with me here. Um, I'm recording in November. It's the same. Whatever. Uh,
Hmm.
anyway, in spells and magic, they go into way more depth and percentile rolls and everything around spell research.
Hmm.
But this is sort of doing all of the same stuff with a lot more DM fiat and that sort of sense of things. Um, I really, really wish that I could go back to talk to Zeb Cook in 87 or 88 or whenever he must have started writing this, and just tell him about the game tech of advancement clocks
Yeah.
that PBTA games and Forge in the Dark games really, really hammered into sort of the whole gaming imagination. They
Hmm.
aren't a weird idea. They're a perfectly obvious idea that can just be implemented really well. And so I think it would have been the easiest thing in the world to explain, and they're great for handling downtime actions. So awesome is where I am with it, right?
Right. Right.
Um, just any kind of like bar that fills up, and there's a state change at some point along that way.
Hmm.
Anyway, um, there's even a bit about researching extra wizard spells. Um, this is dealing with the fact that your intelligence score dictates how many spells of each spell level you can know,
Hmm.
and this is pushing past that limit through research, which is pretty cool since it's a dumb limit anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, there's still this sort of also this holdover assumed element of in from first edition where you might not be able to learn a particular spell, right? It even calls it out
Yeah,
here in the researching extra spells. It talks about a PC that failed to learn the fireball spell.
yeah, I mean, it's
Like,
absolutely a thing.
yeah, that idea is still very prevalent and so the funny thing is that would tend to lead people to want to research new spells because they failed to learn the one that they thought was going to be really cool. So now they're going to try something totally different, which is actually kind of a good collateral effect of the kind of dumb rule that says you failed to learn it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It kind of sucks to put everything down to one dice roll, right?
Yep. I definitely agree that. Well, I can't kill this guy the obvious way. I have to. Well, I can't go fight my enemies the obvious way. You don't do it for one fight, but yeah,
right.
That would be a really nice knock-on effect to an otherwise sort of not super fun rule.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that gets us through quite a short chapter to chapter 8,
right.
experience.
Yes, experience.
Well, I mean, this is one of the clunkier chapters in the book to me, and I mean, we covered all of this. We covered every word of this chapter really early on in the show.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we did. We had a what was it, two episode series on experience through the different editions. And
hey Sam, do you remember we covered more than one edition in an episode?
I know. Stop. This was your idea.
Yeah, accurate.
But yes, no, and we can we'll still do that. But yeah, we already touched on this a great deal. I mean, honestly, what is there to even say about this? I think the one of the things to say is that I think experience points are looked at by newer players, newer D&D players, very differently from players in first and second edition.
Okay.
I mean, fifth edition players, half of them have only ever used Milestone.
Yep.
Right? They don't even have an experience of the game. And I mean, this is a neutral statement. I don't mean it's good, bad. I'm not, going, huh, how could they? I'm just saying, that, milestone experience, milestone leveling is really popular and it works really well with fifth edition, and it's the most popular edition and it's the current edition. So it's a thing. And it's kind of funny that this chapter starts out with the importance of experience, because, this was an edition where the PC still leveled at different numbers, right? Different experience point values.
Yep.
And so if a player was acting up or was doing a really great role-playing scene and you awarded them 100 extra experience for that great speech they just gave in character, that was a big deal, especially at low levels.
Oh, for sure.
And it made a difference. Now, when you're 10th level and 100 experience is not making that much difference, but you get the idea. By then,
scale of 1,000,000 or whatever XP that you need.
Right. But because you would have already supported the culture of the game as, hey, that was a great scene, I'm awarding you experience for it.
Yeah.
Like, that's an expected reward, whether it seems like it's a drop in the bucket or not. And so this chapter has a lot of importance to the way that the game plays.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and I like that they call out fun as a major factor, right?
Absolutely.
Constant goals are fun, character survival, and improvement. And I think that statement right there, this little half a page section, actually goes a long way to trying to set the tone in a less adversarial direction than first edition is built on.
Yeah, the item 4 under fun is really, really undermines the adversarial stance of first edition. It doesn't do away with it, but it does undermine it. Was the player argumentative or a rules lawyer? This is definitely not fun for the DM, but the DM should allow a reasonable amount of disagreement with his decisions. Players will want to argue their views from time to time. However, rules arguments properly belong outside the actual game session. The DM should make a ruling for the moment and then hear appeals to his decision after the adventure. This way the game is not interrupted. Well, that's a lot less my way or the highway than Gary would have written it, right?
And this is also advice that I have given in the last, past several months,
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's good advice.
It's perennial, evergreen advice, that little paragraph right there,
Yep,
especially that last sentence. I mean, or the last two sentences.
yep,
That is great advice, and it's still accurate and usable today.
yep.
But yes, it's not argumentative. It's not adversarial. It's
Like,
very
I guess I have only one major extension I would make to this, 4-item list, which is
mm-hmm,
just understand who the player is and what they're able to give. Like,
mm-hmm,
if you have a shy player, don't come down on them for it and fail to reward them. They're probably doing the best they can. Like,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
understand how they're able to engage, and
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it says if a person is naturally shy, don't penalize them,
well, that's good. That's good.
right?
Yeah, there it
It
is.
actually, yeah,
Item
it
one,
says that.
very good.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying. And the thing is, like, I feel like um the idea here, a player who does nothing but tell one funny joke during the course of the game isn't really participating. I agree with that statement, but if you look, we live in the time of COVID and Trump, okay? So if you're just having a crap day, but you still wanted to come hang out and just be around people and have a good time, or you wanted to log in and be around people and have a good time because we can't see each other in
Right.
person, um, it's okay. Right. Like, so what I would say is you could actually add another sentence to that same top number there, that same top item, and just say, you know, also keep in mind that personal circumstances can cause a player to not be as participatory in an individual session.
Yep.
Don't
And
punish them for that.
and I do honestly believe that the great majority of DMs who bothered to engage with this page in the first place
Mm-hmm.
and like take it on its own terms, I believe they were able to add that on their own.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think there's enough groundwork laid to get there. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty much comfortable cruising on through this. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't really have a lot to say. This is an edition that had, as I said, the classes uh, had experience point value tables that were different from each other. So some classes needed fewer experience to gain a level, and some needed more. And so, they have individualized class awards. They have, hit die value modifiers that allow you to adjust how much experience a creature's worth. And, there's just a lot of options here.
yeah,
Um, and it provides ways for you to give individual awards. It provides ways for you to sort of mess around with the rate of advancement. But it's really just a few pages of advice about, hey, take these things into consideration. There's not a ton of, um, new things in here, I guess. Although at the time, I suppose they were new, but by now they're kind of old hat, right?
yep,
I do note that it makes training an optional, specifically stated an optional rule,
yep,
versus in first edition, it was when you gain a level, you have to go off and train.
yep.
And so, yeah.
And I mean, I would. I ran one storyline in my 5e campaign where
Mm-hmm.
the premise of the adventure was that in order to advance, a particular character needed. This was already the highest level character in the party. They needed
Mm-hmm.
to go find an NPC who could train them so that they could
Right.
advance. Now, in real terms, this was bullshit, and the player knew it. That was like
Mm-hmm.
in the open. There was no
Right.
pretense that I was
Yeah. Yeah.
not going to
Sure.
let the character advance.
Right.
But uh, it made for a nice story,
Mm-hmm.
and they had a good connection with that NPC when all was said and done.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this actually gets back to that statement previously about downtime built into the game, right? You know, we're talking about this training idea comes from first edition. And then the thing is that in first edition, you might be a certain level and you do an adventure module. When you complete it, now you might have earned enough experience to get you to the next level. Now there's 3 months of downtime in the game that you can go seek out a mentor or do whatever you have to do to have that training occur. As long as you have enough money, you can make it happen. And it's not going to kill the campaign because, you're playing first edition and you do this module, then you have some downtime, then you do this module, then you have some downtime. And that's a very different structure than what it seems like more modern games are set up.
Yeah. I mean, I should go through some of the published adventures and just see where it does make sense for the players to take a week or a month or whatever to live in the community that they're doing something about and really experience that. Right. That's a question I hadn't really thought about a lot before talking to you about it right now.
Well, and I mean, that just speaks to the fact that 5th edition, the current edition that we've all played so much of now, because it's in its, 6th year, 7th year?
6th, yeah.
6th year, but boy, I played a year of playtest.
Yeah, same.
I mean, it's, that just speaks to the way that this edition has evolved and how the adventures for it are written. There really aren't downtime spaces, and, more and more, they're just moving to the full, complete milestone version. So you don't necessarily, so here's the thing. Here's what I want to say about that. Moving to milestones actually, if they think about it, makes it easier to build downtime in.
Oh, for sure.
Because now you say, well, first everybody levels at the same time. Now you get to the end of part 1 of the adventure. Now there's 2 months where these PCs can go around town, horse around, establish a home base, learn some of the NPCs, get to know everybody before they have to go fight the big demon in part 2. They can actually get some training and level up a couple levels or whatever. That's easier to build in a situation where you're using milestone leveling.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting sort of thought. That would be interesting. Man, can you imagine the podcast we would create if you and I sat and went through all the 5th edition adventures and said, okay, well, here's where you can have downtime.
I mean,
you could,
I'm down. Let's maybe pencil 1 in per year.
But right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's good. Totally.
I think people listen to that just as a deep dive. Like if you start with Tyranny, people who care about Tyranny of Dragons have probably had their run at it.
Right. Yeah.
And man, I have so much to drag about that campaign. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was on the Tome Show review of it, and I had some negative things to say about it, and I still have some negative things to say about it. But I know about 3 or 4 people who have played that campaign about 4 times.
Wow.
And it's different.
That is commitment.
It's different each time, and they love it. They just love the campaign. It's just so good for them. So
I'm really glad they love it.
Yeah, I mean it's awesome to hear that. I'm actually playing in it right now. It's the first time I've played in a actual standard written 5th edition campaign.
Dude.
And so it's been a long time since I've looked at it because I'm trying to keep myself from remembering. Oh yeah, I remember. But yeah. But I agree with you. I think that those people would be not so. It doesn't. The time has passed, right? Also, I'll cut most of this out, but also that type of topic seems maybe more suited to a blog post because then somebody can go to it and reference it,
Oh, sure.
Versus listening to a podcast, although it would be a hell of a lot of fun. Anyway, so let's move on to Chapter 9.
Yep.
Combats.
In which Edition Wars has a combat. Well, has Chapter 9 combat.
We have Chapter 9 combat.
It's not a form of bankruptcy, is it?
No.
All right.
It is not. I like the fact that the chapter starts out with a several paragraph discussion on creating vivid combat scenes, right?
Yep.
Because here's the thing. This is where the 2E DMG kind of differentiates, and it already has done this, but this specifically in this chapter, it differentiates itself from first edition because in first edition, the DMG, because it was the DM's book, it was a lot of, here are rules, right? If a player wants to do this, here's how you should rule it. If the player wants to do this, here's how you should rule it. If the player wants to do this, here's how you should rule it. And, oh, here are the combat tables, the matrices, which we didn't bother to put into the PHB, right? Like, here's all this stuff. That's mechanics you have to use if you want to adjudicate the game properly. This chapter in the DMG for the second edition is advice. And, here's how you might think about adjudicating this, but here's this other way you could do it. And here's some modifiers, or here's some other different types of ways you might think about this. It's much more advice tone than it is, here are the rules tone.
Yeah, for sure. I guess this doesn't quite have the words that I need to hear to help me do the thing that I need to do to enrich my campaigns, and neither do any of the other DMGs. Just laying that out there. But what I need is to figure out the thing I have to say to make the players feel empowered to engage with their descriptions of their swings, their spells, their movements, so that they are as much contributors to the descriptive narrative as I am, right? Like, listening to Critical Role, that's a part of the dynamic, right, of who is delivering the description. So much of how do you want to do this is about who's delivering the description. That is consciously putting the description in the player's hands, and then he picks it back up and adds a few more details and recapitulates it. But recapitulating it is about making it an agreed part of the descriptive narrative.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, I think that no DMG probably does that very well.
And the game largely stops at, you should describe your attacks and add description to the movement. Okay, right. Here's the dice roll that you need to make to hit. And I don't know, a lot of it is just like bridging that moment of vulnerability for players, saying, I do this, and maybe getting a little purple in their prose. But that needs to be okay for everyone at the table. They need to feel comfortable doing it, and it's tough when you're around your friends and you care how they see you, right?
Well, and also, if you're not used to it, it feels like, well, how many different ways can I say I stab this guy with my longsword, right? Or I slash the guy across the chest. Okay, I try to cut the orc's leg off. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm purposefully picking very generic, like, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But truly, there's only so many ways you can talk about slashing. So I guess here's where I'm going with this. In some cases, you don't need to elaborate on it. Look, if you're doing a very quick skirmish, 5 little goblins compared to your PCs, and they're going to basically slice through them, it's not a big deal. You can actually do a very quick narration, right? In a very short amount of time. Or you can tell the players, okay, you're obviously going to beat these guys. Describe to me how that happens.
Sure.
Right? Describe how that worked in 5 sentences or less. And then you move on, right? Like, you can do that sort of thing. I don't know that any DMG has been really good at explaining the timing of that and the agreement that it takes and the practice that it takes.
I think I agree with you on that. Like, it's hard.
Mean, look, you're talking about Critical Role, this isn't their first, rodeo, right? I mean,
no, indeed. It's not their first very, very public rodeo.
Right. So, I mean, I'm just, I agree with your statement about that particular group and how awesome that is, but it takes years for some people to become comfortable enough in a group to be able to provide that sort of back and forth. We all agree that we're all establishing the narrative, and we all agree that we're going to try our best to produce a narrative that we're all happy with and that sounds really cool too. And by the way, there's another issue here. A lot of people just do not have the vocabulary to be able to do the types of things that we're talking about.
I mean, I know from my own group, which is the one I can really speak about knowledgeably here.
Sure.
I mean, almost everyone at the table is a writer, to some degree or other. The majority of them are published writers.
Okay.
So they've all got the ability. There's just some social dynamic that still kind of gets in the way. And this is not blame. I'm putting it on me to empower them, right? And to make them feel as comfortable as possible, to get the social contract as right as possible, that it's all going to be welcome.
Right.
And, it isn't bad that the DMGs have, focused more on getting the mechanics right. It's just, that's why we have DMG2s. To get to the, once you've got the foundation down, let's pick it up and have something more than a foundation. That's all to the good.
Yeah.
So right, a lot of this chapter is very mechanical stuff, and that's fine, right? It's a lot of the mechanics of Thako. Well, it's easy to mock now. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been one of those people that mocked it. So,
as we discussed in our very first series, it looks kind of bad now. It was amazing at the time because it was player facing.
Right.
But getting into how the modifiers work, folks, you don't need to recap that. You can go back to literally our first episode.
Right. I mean, and that's why I say, so this chapter opens with the sort of narrative, let me set the tone. Here's how you can describe things a little bit. And then it comes off with a bunch of different rules options, talks about a lot of things. To the chapter's credit, it tries to give examples of certain pieces. Whatever. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It has facing rules, discussion, and movement, and it begins with the sort of narrative thing, and then it moves on to the here's all the different ways you could adjudicate these rules, which is great. That's what should be here.
Yeah.
But there's just not much to say about it.
well, and since we're talking about the kinds of advice that you'd really need, you can either go sort of eloquent on description, or especially if you're in a face-to-face game, which none of us are, you can be the kind of DM who carries the scene forward at a sort of breakneck pace, and so you swing, you hit, you get the DM's energy filling the room, and it feels frenetic because of that. I've had that work before, as in a Pendragon campaign. The really fairly dry roll under your sword stat wound up becoming something really great, just because the GM brought so much energy into just his delivery of that very simple thing, and his description of the various Saxon Hearth Knights that were wrecking us with battle axes.
Right.
All the time. Yeah. So many Saxons.
Yeah. So I'm not sure there's
but your point about the descriptions that it offers, that was more of the kind of stuff that I poured over again and again. on my page 54, so on your page, God only knows, there's a description of Wrath, Rupert, and Dulcinora entering a combat, and there's this script of Harry, Anne, John, and DM all like doing this, and I appreciate sort of that moment of intensity and what this can look like. Like when you're 12, literally knowing what to say to communicate this idea might be the thing that gets you past a scary moment. Right.
Well, and that's funny that you say that, because I was already towards the end of the chapter and I was looking at what it has to say about morale, because there's a section about morale.
Well, there's this massive section on individual initiative that just reading it should be an argument for not doing it.
Right. Yes. I promptly skipped that section.
I mean, there are these huge like scripts of their dice rolls and everything, and it's just, oh dear Lord, this drags, and most of your page is math. How do you read that and not think, no? But that's fine. And yeah, I mean, it's still less burdensome than initiative in first ed, so there's that. But right, like, there's a lot of just sort of the standards to get through, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Notes about different types of monster attacks, notes about how to deal with odd combat situations. The PC wants to do this, and how do you deal with that and all that. I mean, it's a fine chapter. It's just not, like I said, I'm way down in the morale section. So whenever you get here, let me know.
All right. Well, I think polearms and weapon frontage says a lot about just the mindset here. Right. There's a whole sidebar on polearms and weapon frontage.
And some of this, right? Some of this is, we're bringing some of this legacy stuff in here because we know that some first edition players enjoyed that sort of thing.
Right. Well, and also because there is still that sense of, you might be playing a war epic, right?
Right. Sure.
Where you might need to know that it's a bad idea to charge a pike hedge. Yes, it's a pike hedge of hobgoblins or whatever.
Right.
I don't care that you're 10th level. They're going to murder you.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And here it's easy to see why. So we've steps away from the idea of a 5-foot square to fight in. A man using a piercing polearm can use his weapon effectively with just 3 feet of space side to side. This allows a tightly packed line of pikemen. Well, that's a really strange idea in every edition after this one.
Right.
Where you don't subdivide smaller than 5 feet. That's not a thing. But here you can.
Well, but he says 3 feet on each side, so that's actually a 6 foot.
Right. Well, no, 3 feet side to side.
Oh, side to side. Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So in a 9-foot block, by the way, what's a 9-foot block? You've got 3 spearmen.
Right.
What? And if you actually stand up at the table and think about it, that makes perfect sense.
Sure.
But that's not what a 5-foot fighting space looks like.
Right.
Anyway, you get into the punching and wrestling results, attacking without killing, punching and wrestling, overbearing. So look, folks, these rules are not good. They're not. However,
well, they are improved from first edition.
Yes. They're so much better than first editions. Just absolute mess.
Yeah.
It's absolute unholy mess. Like, I read it for a long time without understanding what on earth Table 43 punching and wrestling results was really offering. Because it is pretty weird,
Right.
as it takes your attack roll result
Mm-hmm.
before you think about hitting and missing, and it describes that in a way that we just don't do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, I'm not saying this isn't an interesting table. I am saying once you've normalized not doing this, adding this in is real strange.
Right.
And the KO percentage was just totally lost on me. I
Yeah.
had no idea why that was even there.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Which I find, this to be a very interesting table. I don't know how it would play out at the table in any reasonable type of scene. Like it's just the things that are on this table are too, if you roll an 8 and then you roll and then the next time you roll, a 12. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. I could see it being like a fun little mini game if you wanted to play like a Fight Club kind of
Right.
group. That would be kind of interesting to have them have everybody use this against each other, and see what you end up getting, and so I don't know.
So then we have touch spells in combat. Sure, it's a thing.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
Critical hits. Why no critical hit tables? I've never been the person who thought critical hit tables were necessary.
Yeah. I mean, we get them in 2.5e, right? We get
do.
them in combat and tactics in spades. We get them.
I wasn't a fan of them when we covered it last year.
Right, I know.
Here we are again.
Right? Yeah.
I guess this is our particular curse for our sins against Christmas is to talk about this every Christmas.
Must be, yeah.
I mean, Jacob Marley tried to warn you and didn't show up for me. I don't get it. And critical fumbles. Don't do critical fumbles, folks. They're bad for you.
Right.
Parrying. Another idea people always want to put in.
Yeah. And it never quite actually makes a whole lot of sense.
No. Well, spending your action to go full defense is it's just a guaranteed losing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
It might be okay for a single round if you're just really, really screwed, but mostly no. But I do like that we then get into some of the horrible things monsters can do to the PCs. It's very satisfying to read as a GM.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I get to use gaze attacks. Oh, there's some innate abilities. Oh, look, a breath weapon.
Well, you skipped firing into melee.
I did. I wouldn't say it was exactly an accident.
Well, I'm just calling it out as something that often gets questioned, right? Like that's often a topic of if a player wants to make an archer type person, they always want to know what happens if you fire into melee.
And I think it's interesting, sort of how. Well, since it was not a significant question in third or fourth, and it isn't in fifth, it's interesting that the seeds of those questions got planted here, right?
I think the questions existed in first edition.
No, here I meant here is in first and second.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Just it's explicitly not part of the game rules, but either because of reading, having played first and second, or because they're just imagining it in their heads, and it's dangerous to shoot an arrow into a chaotic melee, as any LARPer will tell you. That's why the question still comes up every once in a while in the Facebook groups, kind of thing. Grenade-like missiles. Indirect fire is a real danger to all and sundry, and that's the best kind.
Yeah.
That's what you call excessively close air support. So, do we want to skip forward to saving throws that we also covered in a previous episode?
Sure. I mean,
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we already covered it. It's a pretty standard set of saving throws if you played first edition. This is
Yep.
not really that different. When your PC gets up to the highest levels, the saving throws are concomitantly lower. You know, they all start out in the low teens mostly, and they go down to the low single digits for most classes for every single save. I mean, it's pretty standard. It's not, it's way different from third edition, of course, and fourth edition, and it's different from fifth edition, but it's closer to fifth edition, I think, than it is to third and fourth. But it's basically just first edition, just changing the table a little bit. I mean, it's really not. The saving throws are grouped by the type of attack, so I mean, whatever, it's fine.
It's fine.
It goes into saving throw priorities, which tells you, if the PC could be subject to more than one of these types of things, which one do you roll first? Oh, you didn't die from that death magic. Now you have to roll against this wand. So
yeah. That's all sort of very dubiously implemented in adventures and spells going forward. Then, sure, magic resistance. I mean, everybody loves traits that are incredibly hard for PCs to get, but are fairly easy for NPCs to get. It's a good time.
Yep.
And I mean, magic resistance, just to throw this out there, was, especially in first, second, and third edition, one more layer of defense to get through before you instantly kill the monster with your horrible spell or whatever. Right?
Right. Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is the DM taking evasive action to make sure that creatures have a fighting chance.
Right. So, if you want to see magic resistance as being proto-legendary resistance, I think you've got a leg to stand on.
Yeah, that's a fair argument.
We still have magic resistance in 5th, which is just advantage on saving throws against spells,
sure,
and magical effects. But in what it's actually setting out to accomplish, I think this winds up being a less predictable legendary resistance.
I'll buy that argument. Yeah, I think that's probably true.
Yeah. So turning undead. I mean, it hasn't changed it doesn't change a lot going into third. I think third is fairly similar in its format. I remember a lot of sort of faffing around with trying to get the form of turn undead just right in D&D Next.
Yeah.
And we have another of those great play examples that I love, and Twitter loves to hate, with the priest Gorus, not actually taken from your campaign, but could be.
No, it's not. But
immunity to weapons is more horrible stuff that PCs will never get access to, but will really hate you for. And the function of immunity to weapons does change a lot over the years. It's actually one of the biggest 3.0 to 3.5 shifts, because damage reduction and such was such a huge part of late game monster design. And so I'm getting way ahead of myself, but it's a really big thing there. And so here we don't have the full sort of golf bag of different magic weapons, adamantine and cold iron and so on.
Right.
It's just plus X magic to hit and silver to hit.
This is the sort of thing where I appreciate it, because for me it's a world building tool, right? Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
constantly go back to world building, because the majority of my role playing career, so to speak, is in my own homebrew settings, right?
yeah,
And so since that's the case, I often look at rules and rulings from the perspective of, what does this tell me about the world, right? That's also a biologist mindset, right? If you go look
yep,
at the ecosystem, you look at one creature, what is it telling you about the rest of the creatures or the rest of the world, and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where I come at this from. That's my point of view that I come at this. So it's the same reason I like, talking about harvesting the parts of creatures and harvesting, creating recipes for rituals and things like that,
yeah,
because that to me is all very world building savvy. And, it's sort of like, well, if the trolls all have regeneration unless you hit them with fire, that's a common trope now. Everybody knows about that one. But back then, if you didn't know about it, or if you have a creature in your setting that has a resistance or a regeneration style ability, that you have to figure out what to hit it with to make it not do that. That's a world building exercise. That's not a combat exercise, right? At least it's a combination at the very least. And so that's why I like this sort of thing. But as you said, it too often gets implemented as just a way to, make it so that the PCs can't just, run roughshod over the creature.
yep. And I would love to see a campaign that really examined more the reasons that you need this degree of magic weapon
Mm-hmm.
to harm this creature. Like, what is it about those degrees that matters? And I don't know. Um, I'm into that kind of thing. It doesn't see a lot of uh, narrative interest because it is a binary system of
Right.
you have the thing or you haven't, or in 3.0 and 3.5, you have the thing, or I guess we can ignore most of your weapons damage. Maybe not all,
Mm-hmm.
but most, kind
Right.
of deal.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, like creatures become inherently magic to hit at various hit dice totals. Well, not inherently magic to hit. They inherently swing magic damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
hits creatures requiring plus X weapon.
Right.
Uh, and I do appreciate the bit of, okay, so if you're going to have immune monsters in your campaign, know what you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. And now I finally caught up to you in morale.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not that I wanted to explore the morale section all that much. It was just, I was going to say that I appreciate that, they're talking about role playing solutions,
Right.
that the first and best way to handle morale is to determine it without rolling dice or
Yep.
consulting tables, just doing what you think the creature would do in a particular case. However, I also understand then that they move on to talk about all these morale ratings and situational modifiers and all that. And the reason they're doing that is because not everybody is Keith Amon writing The Monsters Know What They're Doing. Right? Like, not everybody, especially people who are new DMs, can sit there and say, oh, I know what it means for that creature to have an intelligence of 7. I know
Sure.
how they're going to act. Like, that's not something that necessarily comes natural to people.
Sure. I mean,
So,
the idea that an intelligence of 7 means one consistent thing is also incorrect,
well,
but
sure,
that's fine.
absolutely. But there is an idea there that everybody with an intelligence of a certain level has is grouped into a certain set of behaviors and activities, right?
I agree the idea exists. I'll go that
Yes, I'm
far.
not saying it's a good idea. I'm just saying that is right.
Yeah.
That's something that enters. It's a very simplistic way of looking at those ratings, and so
Yep.
it enters into the psyche that way.
Yep.
Um, so I appreciate this section. I think it probably gets a little bit way too. Let me throw a giant table of situational modifiers at you. That's absolutely unnecessary.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
But
I've always been a big proponent of the role playing solution,
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's why I said I like that they started with it, because that's, to me,
right,
the best way. But
like in the arguments I've been in since then, I didn't remember that they had this huge description, though obviously I've read it this obnoxious number of times,
right, sure.
and it imprinted on me very strongly with
Mm-hmm.
just like, if you're gonna put something on camera that has motion and engages the PCs, know what it wants, know how much it wants it. You can kind of stop there.
I agree. Um, and then it talks about injury and death.
Yep. I love the first line under falling. Player characters have a marvelous and, to the DM, vastly amusing tendency to fall off things, generally from great heights and almost
Okay.
always onto hard surfaces.
Yes. Yep.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, that is nice. Um, and it specifically calls out paralysis and energy drain. And it spends quite a few words on energy drain.
Yeah, no one
And the
misses you,
reason it
energy drain. No one misses you.
right. And so the reason it spends so much verbiage on energy drain is because you have to talk a lot to make a case for it, because it sucks so bad.
That is accurate,
you know?
yes.
Um, yeah, so we can move on from that. We don't need to talk about that anymore. There is a poison table, which gave rise to an entire netbook of poisons for second edition. That
God, I just bet it did.
yeah,
So many poisons. Oh, specific injuries. Great.
yeah. I love the first question: is this injury necessary? I can't help reading that in a very sarcastic manner. Is
Well,
this injury necessary?
it's like the old maxim that any headline phrases a question can be answered no.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then it gets into healing, natural healing, magical healing, herbalism.
Natural healing is real friggin' slow.
Yep. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's very old school in its stylistic approach, for sure.
like it's slightly faster, I think, than in Pendragon, which is saying something.
Yeah. So here, I want to say this to you, though. Remember, though, this is also the time when there was built in downtime between adventures.
Yep. Yep.
So it was possible for a person to just be resting for a week and
Yeah,
gain
for
back
sure.
their hit points and not have to have every hit point back after a single long rest.
Oh, you gain back some of their hit points anyway.
Well,
It,
I mean, but if
just
you're in
because it doesn't scale by level, that's all.
yeah, I mean, if you're in complete bed rest and yeah. So I mean, it's yeah, it's going to take a while if you're high level for sure. But if you're high enough level, you've got enough money for magical healing. So
Yep.
you know,
And if you really went deep on troop style play, uh, this actually pays off a lot better, giving you that sort of Darkest Dungeon or XCOM. No, this character is still injured. You can have them again in a month, uh, or maybe after they've also purged some sin at the church or whatever, right? Whatever their new problem is, like that could be a really cool way to get some mileage out of this. If you didn't have ready access to magical healing, though, by all means, have access to magical healing, please.
right? Yep. Yeah, and then death from poison. So I got to tell you, the last second edition game that I ran, the players were traveling and they camped at night, and I rolled for wandering monsters, and poisonous snakes came up. So they were beset by a small, set of poisonous snakes. I think 4 of them or something. And they had killed 3 of them, and one of the players had been asleep this whole time, because I mean it was like one round, because everybody except this one player woke up, and the PC woke up and stood up and tried to swing at the snake and missed, and the snake got a turn and it bit him, and it was poisonous. So I had him roll on the table to see what, how damaging, what kind of poison it was. And he rolled a nat 20, and they were all like, yes, because he thought it was going to be great. And that was death in 6 rounds.
Wow. That's great.
And the PC died for frickin' wandering monster.
Wandering coral snake. Whoops. Yeah. My bad.
Right. So, in that group, it was fine. I mean, that's how we played. They didn't I would really balk at that. That would not happen, for example, in a 5th edition game, right?
Oh, no.
That's just not how I would run it. The sort of ethos of play is very different now. But back then it was just like, oh man. And then he just made a new character and it was fine. Yep. But it was kind of a funny moment because they all cheered, when he got the 20, and then it was like, yeah, this is the case where you don't want the 20.
Yeah.
But yeah, so death from poison has a significance in my running, in my GMing history for 2nd edition. That is, it never turned out good. When there was something poisonous, there was always a problem. If it was a creature, now if it was a trap or something, that was not a problem. But a creature that was, oh god, yeah, bad stuff.
So death from poison, like this section sort of is amusing to me because the requirement that you neutralize the poison before restoring the character to life,
right,
is it's an odd idea, right? There aren't really any other causes of death in the game that we make you fix,
right?
Because they'll kill you again if you haven't fixed them by the time you get brought back to death, up to and including your head being off.
Right.
But this is the one that also made its way into the Georgia LARPing community. Like, if you have a death poison in your system, like, you better get that shit purified, or you got a problem, friend. You will die again immediately upon getting back. Like, what? Why?
That is so. It's so funny.
It's super specific, and it really, really tells you that the game was written in the 90s when this was the current edition of D&D, and that was like what was like instinctive for the creators. I don't know if they got it because of this. I haven't asked them. Like, I could call them up right now and say, "Hey, why'd you put that in?" And maybe it's this, maybe it's not, but it really seems like it might be.
Yeah. I have a sense that, I mean, I don't know about the LARP thing, but I have a sense that because poisons are a real life thing, there was this urge to have a lot of realism in it and some verisimilitude in it that doesn't exist because we're playing in a fantasy world, but because poison is real in real life and there's lots of different types of venoms and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like that sort of real worldism leaked in to the game and made it like, this poison is a protein that won't break down for 2 to 6 hours, so don't get resurrected until you're sure that it's gone. Like,
no, what? You're right. You're right. It's just weird.
Yeah. Very, very odd. Very odd. Okay, so after death from poison, death from massive damage.
Yep. I will say that in 2nd edition, it's pretty hard to get to 50 points of damage in a single attack. Unlike in 3rd, where it's not. It's quite easy, actually. But it's real bad for you in in 2nd. I mean, if doing 50 points of damage wasn't bad enough for you.
Right. I mean, well, this idea also carried forth into 5th edition, right? I mean, there is the massive damage, immediate death rule, right?
An inescapable death. I mean, I was pretty sure that all of the examples you could think of for this have been used on Mr. Bond at some point, and he's fine because he only died twice.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I mean,
it's fine. Like, I do appreciate things like, look, you fell 300 feet into lava. There's not a roll that's going to save you here. Just no.
Okay, Anakin, but
He didn't fall 300 feet into lava. He was left. It's not better, is it? I'm not helping. Well, it's because he didn't have the high ground. If he'd had the high ground,
yeah,
that
right.
wouldn't have helped. Never mind. I'm gonna let this one go.
But you get my idea. I mean, yeah,
No,
it's in some respects there is, you know, there are some things that definitely are inescapable. You are not going to come back from that. So whatever, that's fine. Raising Dead.
yeah, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot for us to say about this, aside from the fact that there is con loss in this one. And
Permanent con loss.
right, and I don't know if permanent con loss is better than, worse than, or fairly equal to level loss in the long run. I will just say that with the rules around increasing ability scores with wishes that we covered in the previous episode, just kind of cruising at 14 con and only spending a wish when you need to regain one, because you can regain them, one point per wish at that level, seems actually really a good way to live forever if you have that steady of access.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering how you got access to those 160 wish spells.
I couldn't begin to tell you.
Yeah, me neither.
Anyway, we have a hovering on death's door rule, which is the precursor to, you don't die at 0 hit points.
Right.
That has become standard. It was used in every second ed game I played in, because we didn't like losing characters even then.
Right.
And then it becomes the law of the land from henceforth in third and later. And I wouldn't expect that to change ever.
The fact that it became the rule in third edition bleeds into my second edition memory, and me and several other people I know, and we just think of this rule in second edition as that's not an optional rule, that's just how it was.
Oh yeah, well, it was
-10 and then you're dead. You don't die as 0.
No, I agree. It was the common table culture, right?
Yeah.
I didn't PC a whole lot of second. I was very much in the forever DM mode in second, but like the few other gaming groups I was in any contact with, yeah, they're absolutely using this. Then we get into unusual combat situations.
Yep. Hey, look, mounted combat.
Mounted combat. I could totally do my whole bit on the Parthians again, but instead, as I've been saying a lot this episode, go back to last year's 12 days and listen to it there.
But didn't we just talk about this a couple of episodes ago, about how it talks about the quality of horses in our equipment section, and how you poo-pooed that and guffawed and said how ridiculous that was. But hey, look at all this mounted combat information here.
Look at all this mounted combat that players weren't actually doing.
That's true, but that's beside the point.
That's right. It is beside the point. But one of the things that I take from the enormous amount of energy put on mounted combat here, because it's basically a page of text, is that this kind of really hooks into the frequent references to Byzantium and sort of the Byzantine way of waging war that runs all throughout this book. And I think that's not a coincidence. I think that the only conclusion I can really come to is that Zeb Cook or somebody thought Byzantine cataphracts were freaking sweet, and wanted to give you a chance to play one, even if that is not otherwise supported in the player options.
Right. I could agree with that assessment, yeah.
And then there's an even larger, a quite substantially larger section on aerial combat,
Well, hold on. I want to
oh.
pause for a second and call your attention to table 52.
Oh yeah.
Structural saving throws, which it's a fine table. It's related to the siege damage section.
Right.
But I just want to bring your attention to the second item on the list, which is Giant Fist. Now,
Yeah.
when I first read that, I didn't read it as the fist of a giant that is laying siege to a castle. I read it as giant fist coming down from God and like punching the hell out of your castle. And then I realized, oh no, it means a giant's fist. Okay, got it. Nice.
Yep. I mean, that's a surprisingly clear precursor to Siege Monster.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome, actually. I hadn't looked back at this to realize that this is kind of planting the seeds of the Siege Monster trait in 5th Ed, but that's great.
Yeah.
I love that. But yeah, there's a ton of detail about mounted combat here, and in all fairness, the majority of it is fairly good, necessary stuff. Some of the +1 modifiers to attack and such, you don't have to have that, but the stuff about being dismounted and knocking someone off a horse, that's all good, useful stuff. And then the bit about mounted missile fire is part of the closing argument in my, I guess someone really liked Byzantine history thesis.
Right.
Because it's sort of just touching on the whole style of Turkic peoples who came over the steppes and fought with the Byzantines, and also a lot of their wars with the Arabs in Anatolia. Thanks, Robin Pearson. I listened to your show.
Yeah, but I mean, it's fair, you know. It is interesting.
Yeah.
I've never really used it much in game, so I can't really.
Neither you nor anyone else, my friend.
Yeah. Right. And then there's the aerial combat section, which is all optional, which in my copy has a gray background. So there's like 2 entire pages.
Yep.
2.5 actually, with a gray background.
Well, so I have aerial combat tournament rule and aerial combat optional rules. I have no idea what tournament rule means.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know why it's called that. And it says the tournament rules can be used in any situation, but rely on the descriptions of the DM and the imaginations of the players for much of their effect. So I guess tournament here actually means something closer to theater of the mind.
Yes, it must, because then the optional rules provide more precision about just what is happening in an aerial battle. They require the use of miniatures or counters and generally take longer to resolve. Yeah, so this is tabletop, and tournament rule is theater of the mind and how to maybe structure that.
Now, this is also one of the extremely few places in all of 2nd Ed where we use inches for something other than inches. Because thus a creature able to fly 12 inches could move 24 inches by diving for its entire movement. Well, what?
Where is that sentence? Because in the movement it says 1 inch equals 10 feet.
So I have that. It absolutely does mean 1 inch equals 10 feet. It's just, I think this is one of the only places in the whole edition where that notation appears.
Yeah. So a creature able to fly 12 inches would actually be moving 120 feet. Okay.
It's not. Right. They don't fail to explain it. It's just, it's weird.
I never used it, so.
Well, here again, I'll say neither you nor anyone else.
Right.
I expect this was not heavily drawn upon. I expect that the great majority of tables, if they ever had aerial combat, decided that the tournament rule was plenty.
Right.
And in as much as I have a problem with these, it's that none of these rules do an even sort of D&D level fidelity good job of capturing like fighting from the back of a griffin in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see that be something a little different, but I don't know what it actually looks like in real implementation.
Yeah, maybe too complex. That's the problem.
Well, for sure. Good dogfighting rules are hard.
Yeah.
Dogfighting is an aerial combat, not.
Yeah,
not
no,
like,
I knew what you were talking
here. Come on.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to look to see if there's any World War I or World War II based games that have a nice aerial combat dogfighting section.
Yeah, it's called Night Witches.
Yeah, but that's a very different type of rule set.
Oh, yes. All right. So next up is underwater combat. And
it spends a lot of words on vision and how well you see in underwater.
Yeah, I think if you haven't looked at it lately yourself, that's a major emphasis of the 5th ed rules on underwater combat and exploration.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's breathing. Well, obvious problem, sure.
Unless you have gills, then it's no problem at all. I don't know what the deal is.
Right. Well, I'm speaking as the person who's working on Under the Seas of Odari right now.
Oh.
So
yeah,
that's a thing. But right, like the looking at the combat rules here, only thrust weapons can be used effectively underwater. Well, except for those possessing magical items that enable free action. Well, that's surprisingly close to how in 5th ed, if you don't have a swimming speed, marking you as an aquatic creature, you have to use a piercing weapon underwater. And then nets and missile weapons, nets and crossbows, the only things that really work underwater. Range is reduced. That's surprisingly similar. This book still labors under the idea that nets could be a good way to use your turn in combat, and 5th edition makes it much clearer that will never be a good idea.
Right. But they still offer it on the equipment table.
Oh, they offer it.
Yeah.
And then you read the entry and realize there is no circumstance under which this is an okay idea.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
You say that, but I have a player who bought 4 nets. And I said to him, "What are you going to do with those nets?"
Well,
and he's not sure, but he could carry 4 of them, so he bought them.
It worked in She-Ra. There's nothing wrong with Netasa in that show, so whatever. I guess it's fine. Ish.
Anyway, moving along. Chapter 10, Treasure and Magic Items.
Yep.
And the very first question on this is, who needs money?
I think that all the players in 2nd ed are going to be very keenly aware the answer is us, please.
Yes, everyone. Thank you.
Since one really nice thing is that the player's handbook does show them what they're going to need money for in their class features. Right. And that's just rude, and I love it.
Yeah.
You want to build a stronghold? All right, sucker. Just go ahead and sign on the dotted line.
Mm-hmm.
The VIG is on. Money.
Yes, and what if the characters find a sheaf of cracked papers in an ancient hoard, and one of the papers turns out to be a long-lost land deed?
That's
Is it
cool.
valuable?
I love
Could the
that.
characters use it to enforce a claim? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Now my whole game is focused around that. Mwah.
I mean, if you can get your D&D game to be all about real estate conflicts, I think that's fine. There are definitely groups that I know of in real life who would be so all about that and would abuse it to their heart's content.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had a group, actually the same one whose one of the PCs died from that snake bite. They loved political machinations and they loved having a headquarters and they loved being respected and trying to fight out the noble houses and I mean they loved it. They couldn't wait to get to the point where they were doing that.
Good times.
Yeah, it was fun. So then placement of treasure. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I like the three premises of
Yeah.
treasure,
Mm-hmm.
because it does really like uh, foretell the whole points of light thing of fourth ed.
Yeah.
Like that's a it's a very clear signaling of everything that's going to go into points of light just in treasure, and that's really cool.
Well, and once again, it's hitting on that world building aspect that I so love.
Yep.
Right. That's a complete world building. I mean, look at premise 2. Once the world was more culturally advanced, since only an organized society can control things like minting on a large scale.
Yep.
You can't mint coins without organization.
Yep. Well,
even if they're hand minted, even if you're using a small hammer and, hammering the seal of the king into them,
right.
You're still organized because you're cutting those to the same approximate size.
Right. And you have to regulate purity.
Right.
Right. Just ask Diocletian. And I really like that there are some paragraphs of, how all of this can factor into your settings history.
Mm-hmm.
Is another of those kinds of things that, like, they don't specifically intend you to use any of them. They're just tossing out a bunch of names that are phrased with meaning,
right,
that you sort of invent for yourself, but there's going to be a common understanding of roughly what that means. And so you're off to the races.
Right. Then it talks about, who might have the treasure. So the intelligent versus unintelligent creatures. Do you plan the encounter? Do you have a random encounter? And then it talks about balance in your treasure tables and the danger of a Monty Hall campaign. So, I like that it's more advice centric about, think about what treasure is going to do your campaign. Think about what having a lot of treasure is going to do. Think about what that's going to do to the PCs and the NPCs around them.
Yep.
Then it talks about magic items.
Well, and there's also some just great bits of thinking about NPCs who are powerful and have a lot of money. Just the section on intelligent creatures with money is actually quite nice. For just helping you think about how to present stuff,
right?
Especially if this is your first time seeing any of these ideas. There's advice on how to fix a Monty Hall campaign.
And just to be clear, when it's talking about intelligent creatures, it's not just, here's the human, wizard who's intelligent. And it's talking about, for example, it gives the example of a hobgoblin chieftain. It says intelligent monsters will take precautions to guard their treasure that would never dawn on unintelligent beasts. The hobgoblin chieftain isn't going to leave his treasury unguarded. Also, he isn't going to trust his guards. So he's likely to have the treasury rigged with at least one and probably several dangerous traps. Right? Like, I'm not sure that people would consider a hobgoblin intelligent or unintelligent. In this case, it means intelligent is above, instinctual bestial intelligence, right? Above animal intelligence.
Right.
It doesn't have to be an intelligence 18 wizard using, magic using hobgoblin. It can just be a creature that understands that those things have value.
For sure. For sure.
Anyway, so where were you going? Planned and random encounters?
Well, I was looking at Money Hall campaigns and magical
Yeah.
items.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a lot of advice here on like having creatures use the magic items that they have with them so that they don't just leave that magic sword stashed and unused without some kind of good reason. Discussing rarity. There's there's a bit that always sort of interested me. The charm of discovering a magic item is lost if everyone has one, but too few magical items can also ruin a game. This is especially true at higher levels where magic is so important to character survival. You don't want to kill half the party just so the survivors can be excited at discovering a sword +1. And obviously that's true for D&D, and it just amuses me because I have been in non-D&D games, both LARP and tabletop, where a sword of literally any magical gift at all, just even the absolute barest magical power, was something that the PCs were going to fight and die for a season of the game. Just so much suffering, and now they've got one because the campaign would be built around, well, if you don't have a +1 weapon, you're not fighting that thing. And so now they can fight the thing that's been tormenting them for ages. Right. And that would apply in D&D if you tried it that way.
Right. And the thing is, that's also a world building thing, right? Like having extremely rare magical items.
Exactly.
And it actually calls that out. It says if magic is common, the normal people will begin to build inventions around it. There might be a gin-powered steam engine, a crystal ball telecommunication network, or other very unmedieval results. This can be entertaining, but it does drastically change the shape of the campaign world. That speaks to me, right?
It spoke to Keith Baker, too.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Anyway, and then a good section on researching magical items.
Yeah. So this is a section that I feel several different ways about at once, just because you can get really lost in, I actually go on 3 different quests to get the thing I need to make this magic item, when we could have all had more fun just going on a quest for the magic item. Which is just why crafting systems are hard in tabletop. The player can't have lonely fun. That's not how the dynamic of tabletop conversation and play works. If it were, then different story. But researching magic items, the nature of creating magic items, we have talked about this before. I do still like it as a thing, but in a lot of ways, it's just kind of it winds up being a player-initiated quest that is the same as the other flow of play, but yeah.
It has the same. I mean, it has the issue that you just mentioned, that if you don't watch it, you end up just turning it into a series of fetch quests, and that's not fun at a certain level, right? That on a certain level. I mean, I don't mean at a certain level of PCs. It's just not fun anymore. But as I mentioned when we talked about this last time, this is also purely for me a world building thing, right?
Yep.
Sometimes, right? See, I think this should be approached like magical research is approached, right? Like, I want to create a spell that does X, Y, and Z, right? Creating a magical item should also work that same way.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to create a sword that also lets me, what's their dumb example, spider climb or something, right? Like, so what do I need to do to make an enchantment to be able to enchant that sword to make it have that magical property, right? That can be a single quest. It doesn't have to be, let's go find these 5 different components using 5 different missions to get that, just to make a +1 sword of climbing or whatever, right?
Sort of climbing.
I'm just saying, like, you just need, like, some kind of idea of balance in there where it can be a world building thing of interest. It can be a thing of interest to a couple of the players, and it has to also be fun for everybody else in the party too.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the kind of work that we did around how you make magic items is a huge part of world building. When we were writing the LARP, was really, really intense, and I've never spent that kind of energy on doing the same in a tabletop game. Just because magic items were so much more an assumed part of play.
Yeah, that's understandable.
And I do sort of like that scrolls and potions are relatively much easier to create. They need to be. It's consumables, man. Like let's sort of.
Yeah. Once you reach a certain level where you could create those pretty easily, they should be very basic. Like, it needs to be basic.
Well, like, if they're going to be common in the world as treasure, they should probably be something that your casters can make. It's just it does stand to reason pretty well.
I mean, didn't you see Harry Potter? They all went to potions class.
Yep. I mean, what I know is that every wizard gets scribe scroll at first level, but not everyone really bothers with brew potion at third. That's 301, 354.
That's true. Anyway. Yeah, it's funny because we talked so much about, like, creating magic items it's funny how much so many of our episodes were very specifically caught up by the second edition set of rules.
Yeah. I mean, I think that this book gets overlooked by a lot of people in talking about kind of the history and development of the game, because for a lot of the people that I talk to, much as for you, the first AD&D DMG was the more mysterious, the more foundational. It has sort of more nooks and crannies, because you can just open to any random page and
right.
Lord knows what you might find.
Right.
Whereas this, like, it's a much slimmer volume, and I think it's easy to overlook all the stuff here, but there's really a lot of good material here for just, like, basic usage, in part because a lot of the stuff that used to be entirely reserved to the DM has now been pushed over to the player's handbook.
Right. Leaving room here in the DMG for exploring different things.
And also, they didn't need to include some of the kinds of really specific NPC world building stuff. Like, the section on sages in this book is not as long. The section on assassins is not as long, kind of thing. And so that's why you can get away with being a much slimmer volume. I think overall the magic item section is much shorter, but I haven't checked the page count, so don't hold me to
that. So the last section here is on artifacts and relics.
Yeah.
And it's another optional section that has like 3 pages of optional explanation.
Yeah, tagging this as optional is kind of an odd statement.
Yeah.
For D&D, because Sure, they might not show up, but anything might not show up. Like
Right.
the idea of AD&D where there is nothing that could ever be called an artifact is a
Mhm.
little. Oh, I guess you felt like tying your hands. That's a little weird.
Yeah. So the interesting thing though is then it gives rules for designing an artifact or relic, which I appreciate. Um, I don't know. Yeah. I mean,
Well, right, and we sort of go through a couple of different sample artifacts and relics,
mhm,
and the things that show up here are very, very classic in D&D.
mhm.
Uh,
Rod of
I,
seven
I
parts.
think most of them come from First Ed.
Mhm.
Rod of Seven Parts, Hand of
Yep.
Vecna. Uh, Heward's Mystical Organ may not show up in that many editions, but I
Yeah.
love that they give us the story of the Rod of Seven Parts. Um, like this is where I first learned about Miska the Wolf Spider.
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
I, but this was my only contact with even that name
Right.
for a decade, maybe
Okay.
more.
Mhm.
Um, and then it's sort of shocking how long the section on Heward's Mystical Organ is. And are we not doing phrasing anymore? It's phrasing, people. Heward's
Yeah.
Mystical
I
Organ.
mean, yeah. I
Come on.
know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What's interesting about this to me is that if you look at the very beginning of the designing an artifact or relic section, it reads very much, or at least it's structured very much like almost like fifth edition, where
Yeah.
it talks about appearance, history, alignment, what kind of powers it has. Are they major or minor? What are the dangers and weaknesses of it? Does it have any corrupting effect? Like, I think in the 5th edition DMG, the creating an intelligent artifact section is very, very similar.
Yeah. 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 And I think that they did that with tons of intent.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Sure.
they certainly had the fourth edition concordance
Mm-hmm.
artifact
Right.
system
Yep.
to look to if they'd wanted, and they
Mm-hmm.
did.
Right.
Um, it was something much more in line with second edition.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but
Yep.
everything about designing artifacts and relics and destroying artifacts and relics is, I mean, peak world building.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
but
Mm-hmm.
if artifacts aren't a cornerstone of your world building, don't put them in your game.
Right.
They have no business being in your game if they aren't a cornerstone of world building. I don't know how else to put that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you are saying enormous things about your game if the Hand of Vecna shows up.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, there's like 5 artifacts in my D&D brief game. And they're all like super powerful, and the players don't even realize how powerful they are.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
I mean, they know the sort of mundane powerful uses of them, but they're
Uh-huh.
only just now learning. Oh, this actually, yeah, there's a reason we got this. This is like Destiny or something that we got this because of the quest we're on. This could be bad,
Yeah.
because the thing's a freaking relic.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so that actually brings us to does your version have the wonderful homage to the cover of the first edition DMG in it?
No.
The two thieves prying the jewel out of the giant statue of Moloch.
No. The art I have here is a warrior with a very elaborate getup, a skull for a part of his helmet, um, with sword drawn and a shield at his side, and a golden gorgon breathing fire and murdering the townsfolk. Uh, uh, like
Yeah,
that's the center of the whole picture, and there's like all kinds of other action going on, and because of the other action going on, I'm really not clear who the good guys are or
yeah,
what's happening here. I think he's got to be the bad guy, and then the person who's getting freed from the chains has to be his intended victim, but there's a lot of different possible stories you can construct with this picture.
So that brings us to chapter 11, but I think we're going to end here, dear listeners. We hope that you have enjoyed our discussion, and so with that, we should say goodbye.